be input. And some of those that I outlined in Tina would be parents recognizing signs of drug abuse or alcohol abuse in their teens, making sure that parents are able to recognize those signs. We have another idea that would provide direct outreach to the Wheeling High School students and providing them naloxone distribution and naloxone training and a review of the Good Samaritan law, and making sure that the students there are also aware of the resources that our core program provides. We have, as a leadership team, we strongly believe that the more individuals that have naloxone training, the more individuals that have naloxone on their person, the better opportunity, the better chances we have as a society to combat the opioid epidemic. And that is one thing that when I outlined it in the email to Antonia, I had said that would have to be approved by Wheeling Penn or the Colonial School District.
In respect to the pivot for the after school that would be housed actually, for example, and I recognize you might not know the answer, but the question I have is, would those children and families who have expressed interest, would they be able to participate?
It's a great question, and I could definitely seek that information for you and seek clarity from the actual provider. I know that the program itself is a grant-based 21st century grant program. I'm not sure if outside students, if they don't already attend to retreat, would be able to attend or not.
Anything else? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Salter.
Thank
We
you all.
appreciate you coming here tonight to talk to us
Thank you.
about that.
I appreciate it.
Okay, the treasurer's report, you notice Mr. Wisman is not here tonight. He has had some health problems, but he's recovering and he hopes to be back with us next month. So meanwhile, for tonight, I will present the treasurer's report. The total unrestricted funds on hand are $10,606,194.48. And the total restricted funds are $3,337,510.47 for a total of $943,704.95. Overall, things are progressing normally. We're a quarter of the way into fiscal year 25. Our property tax receipts are now at 93%, and delinquent tax collection is well ahead of projection at 44%. The council's been given the various charts with more numbers. Does anyone have any questions? I may be able to answer. If not, Ms. Taylor in the city office said she'd be happy to respond to emails. Sure.
So are we gonna look at September minutes?
Oh, pardon me. Yes, thank you. We'll go back to that next. Thanks for the catch. Okay, any questions about the treasurer's report?
Already said, but interest that is earned is just reinvested again, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report subject to audit? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The minutes of the September 17th meeting, the only problem I saw with it that Mr. Zabaka is listed as being absent and he was at the meeting. I don't know.
Some type of prior to meeting.
It's probably copied and pasted at the top, yes. So, but he's quoted, you know, his report in the council comments is there, and I recall that he was here. So I was also. Oh, yes, okay. So Ms. Waring, if we could have those two corrections. Is there anything else? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 17th with the corrections noted? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. Ms. Cantillo? Oh, she's getting.
Thank you. So during last month's council meeting, I attended the FEMA course, L273 in Ocean City, to learn more about floodplain management, and the National Flood Insurance Program, which the city participates in. I learned about the program itself, how communities are rated, the role of the community in complying with the regulations permitting permits in the floodplain and how that works, and providing technical assistance for grants and other things, and how we can benefit from being in this program with means such as the grants and such as increasing community resiliency. It was a great program, and thank you for allowing me to attend that to learn more, so I can better serve the community. We are working to complete the hiring process for a code enforcement officer, and that person should hopefully be starting within the month. The other posting for the code enforcement team will be going up shortly. I'll share that information with you as soon as I have it. The floating pier, the contractor has completed the drawings, and after they've driven the test files earlier in the season, and they submitted it to our engineers. Our engineers had a couple comments and feedback, submitted it back to the contractor, and they're working to finalize that and come up with a schedule when they're actually going to complete the work. As soon as I have a better estimate from the contractor, we'll communicate that to you. The mobile stage has finally been ordered, so that is underway. It has been on the barge coming here, and they're gonna work on outfitting that and delivering that to us. When I have a good estimate of when it'll be delivered, I'll share that. Hopefully I'll have news at the November meeting. The posted bid opportunity for the 25 city paving contract has been posted, and it was originally scheduled to have a bid opening last week. Due to no receipt of actual bids, we have postponed that a week, and the bid opening has now been moved to this Thursday, October 10th at 1:30 at the city office. If anyone wants to obtain the bid package or has any questions, they can certainly reach out to our office for that. We are also working on the bid package for the curbing and the sidewalk, and that information is forthcoming. Again, we'll share that information on our website when that bid package is prepared. Since the last council meeting, we applied for additional grants, including a BTI cybersecurity grant, and we will be pursuing 2 additional cybersecurity grants this month. We are also working on completing Homeland Security grants. A notice to residents, we're removing a 2-hour parking sign on Delaware Street between 4th and 5th. It has been there for quite some time and is not necessary. We've spoken to multiple business owners in this area, and they don't see a need for this, so we are removing that, replacing it with an additional speed sign and a yield to pedestrian sign, just to remind drivers of the traffic laws. So that is coming this week, and again, we'll post that information on our website. We as a team have also met with the state to discuss the dikes and the sluice gates and flooding problems in our city, and are working to plan for the future with continued discussions on flooding and planning and maintenance of all these facilities. And that concludes my report.
I just have one question. I missed the code enforcement officer. When do you hope that new person will start?
Within the month.
Within the month.
In the last meeting, the bike, council grant was, submitted. You know when is the deadline? When we're anticipating to hear from that?
So I'm actually scheduled to meet with the bike council later this month. And then I believe that they determined that they're meeting during the first week of December. And then after that, we should know.
Like the first week of December?
Mhm.
And for the stage, they said there was one already in process, but wouldn't be the full 6 months. So is that the case?
Yeah, it's expected sooner than 6 months. So it was already on the way when we ordered it. They are just waiting to actually get it before they give me a, hey, we're gonna expect this to get to you by the state, because they don't want to get our hopes up.
And regarding that, I just wanted to ask if we are reaching out to businesses to, sponsorship opportunities put on the banners.
Yes, I'm gonna look into that and how we can outfit that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And my,
Any other questions?
I was talking about the bidding
Yeah.
for the payments. Can you tell us more, where was it posted, and is this difficult to have extended deadlines for submission?
Yeah, so we worked with our engineer to prepare this. He said it happens often. He said
No big concern.
yeah, it was posted on our website and then, people can make that.
Does it connect to the state system for the bids as well? Does it get
No.
posted here, or is that just for state agencies?
I know that that one's just for state agencies. There's something called PennBid, which other municipalities use through their engineering firms. Our firm was not formally engaged with that before I spoke to them. They have now just received authorization as of last week to engage with that system. So for our next bidding opportunity, we'll post it in there as well.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief McCain.
Good evening, I'll be brief because I heard the first of my comments. The reports are finished enough, on the website, so you have any questions. We had our first, police accountability committee meeting, last week. 7 of the 9 members showed up. It was something like, 2 hours, basically some introductions and, some general concepts on how we got where we're going. We have our next meeting scheduled for the 17th, but we'll be putting something out shortly that I think we're gonna have to move that to maybe the first Thursday in November. This is conflict. So I think we're gonna see a pattern of it being challenging to get everybody together. It is a big group. But you know, we're looking forward to working with them. It's a great group of folks that very engaging. So I would encourage people to follow that and come to some of these meetings because they are very engaging. The last thing I have from the police department, this is on behalf of Captain Sugar. She'd like me to announce that we are starting to look for families for the annual Christmas the donations that we do for Christmas. So we identified several families in the city that could use the help. And once we get them identified, Captain Sugar and her crew go out, do a lot of shopping, they take donations, they do whatever they can do to get everything put together by the week before Christmas, and then we get the police department involved, seeing pictures of that. So if you've got a family in mind, please reach out to us, either through our website or directly to Captain Sugar. And then with that, I would like to defer my time to Harold Stafford. He is the Government Relations Director for Health Initiative. I met Mr. Stafford through Senator Ford. She reached out, said Mr. Stafford has a unique opportunity that for the city. Part of one of his initiatives is turning the lights on program. So I don't want to say anything else. I'll let Dr. take it.
Good evening. And thanks, Keith, for yielding some of your time to me, and I will be as brief as possible so you can go over the rest of your business. It's an honor to be here tonight. I think your council and others, along with the chief, for responsible for being here. And I want to commend whoever initiative and had the foresight to hire Ms. Pantilla. I had the pleasure of working with her when we did this work with Townsend, so good catch me. So why am I here? You can thank, as Chief said, you can thank Senator Ford for asking me to get into some good trouble in the town of Bolton, Newcastle. I'm looking forward to it. So who is the Health Initiative? The Health Initiative is a nonprofit company. We're located in Dover, our headquarters on Lockerman, Bradford Street. We have been in business for about 8 years, and I formed this company in 2016. And we do something that's very simple, but it's turned out to be a very impactful program. What do? We initially went into some of the high crime districts of Dover. Not to say that you have a lot of high crime here, but we went into high crime districts of Dover. And we started converting lights at people's homes, exterior lights, taking out all the incandescent light bulbs and installing dusk-to-dawn LED bulbs on the front back of. And if people didn't have a fixture, or if they did have a fixture and they had a shed or detached garage in the back, we would install these solar powered motion lights. About 1,000 lumens, probably some of them might have these already. And if there's movement within 20 feet of the light, comes on, stays on until the movement is beyond 20 feet. This dusk to dawn light, make the switch on, it comes automatically at night, goes off during the day. When we started this project, these bulbs last for about 20 years. Now the ones we're getting about 15 years. And they cost about $2 a year in electricity to operate. We've done over 19,000 houses, if you can believe that, in Delaware. 19, from Laurel, Georgetown, Milford, Seaford, Dover, Middletown, all the way to the Pennsylvania Delaware line. A lot of Wilmington and a lot of Newcastle County. So this doesn't solve crime, but it helps law enforcement reduce crime. Let me just give you an example. We went into the city of Milford and we did a study that we presented to the Attorney General Jennings. We looked at the crime rate in this particular area 12 months before we installed the lights. And then we did another assessment of crime with the Milford Police Department 12 months later. And we were able to document that parts 1 and 2 crimes, the chief, the staff will know what I mean by that. We were able to document there had been a cumulative reduction of about 12% of parts 1 and 2 crimes in that location in Milford. And if you'd like to get a copy of the report, we could send it to you. So what we do is we work with each police department, the chiefs and his or her staffs. They have them determine where in their town we would go and do this work. We don't just show up and do action. We work with the chief, work with the leadership of the town, and they tell us where they want us to go. And once they do that, we develop our plan of action as to how we're going to proceed. After we get the approval, and normally we don't go into a town or city unless we get the approval from council, and that's why I'm here tonight to present this to you, because as I said to Senator Poor and the chief, and as I said, Senator Poor is the one that's responsible for my being in this good trouble tonight. We'd like to get the approval from the city leadership, and then we proceed. The first thing we do after we get that leadership is we develop this door hanger. This is just an example of what the door hangers we did for Milford, by the way. We put the door hanger on the door, and 24 to 48 hours after the door hanger is hung, we start knocking on the doors. Go to Harold's house, Mr. Stafford, the door on your house. A couple days ago, did you see it? If I said yes, then I asked, would you like us to lights in? And most times, if they've seen this before, we knock on the door. 9 out of the time they say yes. It helps to save on your energy, and it also helps to law enforcement to make our community safer. Any questions?
Any questions from council for Mr. Stafford?
I just wish my daughter was still here so I could show her what true fairies in real life look like. All I just want to say is thank you for doing this, and before, hopefully, for this program to be broadcast as well.
But you're welcome. You should have flyers that, and the last thing I'll say is this, in addition to the lights, we do a lot of other things that, and all of this is at no cost to the residents. We also have window inserts. We have a manufacturing company that we make window inserts. Because a lot of the older homes don't have tight window sills. So we make those and we install those so we go to the lights if they need them. We have device that measures the window, and then we take it back from our house, and then we fabricate the window. We also have a career apprenticeship job training program. I don't know if anybody is looking for a job, but we hire people from the community to come and become light installers, and then we have agreements with the vocational schools in each county where they can take classes in special trades, become an HVAC technician, plumber, electrical person, or construction at no cost.
And how is your program funded?
Initially, when we started the company, we were funded by a hybrid, it's a nonprofit and state agency. Some of you might have heard of Invest Delaware. For 5 years of our existence, we got our funding from Invest Delaware. For the last 2 years almost now, we've gotten funding from the American Rescue Plan Act, federal funds, by way of the state of Delaware. Those funds will run out next year about this time, but we're looking to receive other funding that we're applying to sustain the company beyond 2025 and beyond.
The first one you mentioned something Delaware, and I missed the first word. Like the first, you said you started with
Energize Delaware.
Energize.
Energize Delaware.
Thank you.
No other questions?
Just had two, one, if you, get the go-ahead, how quickly can you all mobilize and be on the ground?
Okay, good question. That was one of the notes I wanted to make sure I left with you. In conversations with Senator Ford and Chief Kane, Senator Ford initially identified the Dawkinsville area as an area that she was concerned about and was going to propose. So we could start, if approved tonight, we are prepared to start on October 4th.
Then the second question I had was, have you had any experience, or do you just do homes, or do you do common areas as well, alleyways or other common walkways?
We do homes, we do apartment complexes. We've done a lot of alleyways, especially in Wilmington, if you're familiar with a lot of where the streets are laid out there in some parts of Wilmington. And in the alleyways, we put the solar power generate in the alleyways, as long as it can get recharged. It's not obviously exposed to the sun. It won't come on. So it's got to be, in a location that is exposed to the sun. Thank you.
We have a lot of volunteers in our community, so we should get them involved to learn how to handle this and get them motivated to go out and do this for you as well.
We welcome having them come out and work with us. If you want to give me a call, you can do that. And you also should look on the back of our social media. We're probably one of the few companies, public private, that has a call center from 8 to 8 in the morning, 8 at night. You'll never get a voicemail message until you call after 8 at night on the weekend. So that's staff for that critical time of the day, throughout the day, so you can call that number and ask for me. And it's not going to chat.
So when you say you need consent from us, what do you need tonight? Just a consensus that we agree that this is a good idea?
A good idea, and you'd like for us to proceed. And no cost to the town or the residents.
Right. It sounds like we have that consensus.
Very good.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
So much, sir.
Nothing better than having a mission accomplished. So good. You have a good night.
Thank
May the
you.
Lord be with you until we meet again.
So I have was a question.
All right, any questions for the chief? Okay, council communications, Mrs. Bell?
For the dog park, we're waiting for a site plan. Once we do get a site plan, we'll go out for an RFP for design. This past weekend on Saturday, we had a community yard sale. Wendy Houghton, the big huge thank you for setting this up for our first. Many of them, and I think was well received within the community. Also, then 2 weeks ago, we had Art on the Green. I'd like to thank the fire and police for all the assistance through the weekend. Everything went well. And then also, this coming Saturday is the last market. I know they have some big plans, kind of maze and stuff like that. Hay rides. So hopefully everyone will come out. I think the market's been huge for our community. One, we go out and do our shopping. We don't need to leave our community. Two, it's pulling us together. And I'd like to throw out the council, if not discussion tonight, but in the future, on seeing how we potentially continue with John and potentially taking that and maybe splitting into two with John and Pete. They've been a duo, John Reeves and Pete Price, to maybe keep us going on the right path, other things in our community.
Well, that's something you go on the agenda for the mid-year budget discussions in January.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Maverick.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to acknowledge life and death of Renata Leon, who lived 44 years. She's a treasure to her family, friends. I'd like to send thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by the recent hurricane and those that are in the path of the one scheduled to hit land later this week. I'd like to thank the city administrator for facilitating and connecting city members' respect with security grants. That connection came out of Delaware League meeting, so I really appreciate her bringing some of those resources to the city. And then finally, I'd like to ask the city administrator, the mayor, and council to consider a holiday greeting card. I went out to the town of Middletown, and for a good many of years, they have printed electronic holiday greeting card that can be printed by neighbors, by friends, etc., just to bring good cheer. This is something that we can replicate and do at a minimal cost. And so I have some of that information I'd like to share with you, city administrator. That's it for me, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you, Maverick. Okay, Mr. Zabaka.
Good evening, everybody. I really just wanted to say similar things that Brian and Andrew already mentioned, so I'm just gonna echo what both of you said. I'm really excited to see us exploring grants as a city, proactively looking for external fundings to either introduce some of the new programs or just subsidize some of the funding that we're having as a city, especially as it relates to cybersecurity. And thank you for attending the resiliency training as well. That's going to be definitely handy as we're seeing a lot of, unfortunately, natural disasters around the world. So just to kind of be prepared as a city, and looking forward for the cycling for the dog park to see, what that influences as well. So, and a mobile stage. So thank you guys all for putting a lot of work into this. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thanks tonight, perhaps a little longer than usual, but I think worthwhile. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Miller for his last month for his idea about applying for grants to help fund the dog park. We're looking into that. I'd also like to thank Mr. Gross for his idea of finding sponsors to help with costs in exchange for recognition with signs on the fence. So we'll be exploring this possibility with fencing companies. Obviously, they might give us a discount if we put up their sign. And suppliers of products and services for dog owners, since they're the people who are going to be there. I'd like to offer big thanks to Chief Majewski and Captain Frank Scheffler and the other Delaware firefighters who went to North Carolina to help with search and rescue after Hurricane Helene. Because of their training and expertise in water rescue, they were selected as team leads. This is the first time Delaware's team has been deployed outside the state, so we're very proud of them and thank them for their extra service beyond what they do for us every day. And then the next part is the longer part. On September 24th, I attended the meeting of the Flood Resiliency Committee. We also had with us our engineer from AECOM, Emily Dinga. She's relatively newly appointed to this role with us. She has 20 years of experience as a water engineer and floodplain manager. She works on both coastal and riverine flooding, climate change adaptation, and FEMA mapping. So she has exactly the type of expertise we need. She said that Newcastle's already done a lot of the planning, and now we need engineering, design, and construction. The committee discussed their activities, pardon me, and options since they learned that the federal budget for the National Resource Conservation Service and RCS programs that we had been accepted into, but now the budget's been severely reduced. So members of the committee have, pardon me. The members of the committee have contacted the staffs of our senators and US representatives, as well as the governor's office. However, as you probably all know, we're gonna have a lot of turnover in that area. The coming elections will bring many changes. We'll have a new senator, a new US representative, and a new governor. This means that for now, Senator Coon's office has the greatest stability, so a committee member is following up with them. You may also know the federal budget's now on a continuing resolution through at least December, and this means that no new projects can be initiated until the final budget's passed. Given all this turmoil, the committee's exploring other options, such as breaking the project into smaller phases that we might seek different funding sources for. Last week, the city administrator and I participated in a meeting with the new state administrator. Her title is State Conservationist for this federal program, the NRCS, as well as the state conservation engineer for that agency, the chair of the Flood Resiliency Committee and another member, the city planner, and the supervising engineer from AECOM. And it was a good opportunity for us to introduce the new conservationists to Newcastle and the challenges we face from flooding. She said at this point, there's limited federal funding available right now, and the priority for money they do have will be with the recent hurricane damage. After this meeting with these other officials from NRCS, the members of the Flood Resiliency Committee, the city planner, the city administrator, and I stayed on the call to discuss ways to move forward on our own until things settle down after the election. We'll try to identify some smaller projects we could undertake to provide at least some additional protection. We'll keep in touch with Senator Coon's office and of course make contacts at our new senator and representatives' offices once they're in place. And then finally, as the city administrator mentioned, she and I met with two people from DENREC, the public works director and a member of his staff, and the city's building official who's also helps manage our floodplain. The focus of this discussion was the dikes and the floodgates at Bull Hill, Buttonwood, and the one near the Sailing Club. And as she said, we discussed maintenance needs and emergency planning. So all that stuff kind of goes together. And the Flood Resiliency Committee hopes to become involved in helping to identify projects that we can potentially move forward with. That's all I have for now. So, business from the mayor.
I hope that everyone who wanted to was able to visit the Neo Trinidad while they were in port. It was an honor to have them here, and it was just a lot of fun on both events. The Senior Center Block Party, again, was a great success, and the Senior Center is very grateful to that fundraising effort. Many of the other events I don't have to talk about, I just be repeating. I also echo, though, the thanks of Council President Souder to the Goodwill Fire Company, people who went down to North Carolina. Do you have plans to go again, perhaps?
No, ma'am, not this year. For our first out-of-state deployment, was enough. We'll see about next year.
And again, our last market on the green is this Saturday with hay rides, pumpkin maze. I will miss the market on the green. I love going over and getting fresh eggs and steak and vegetables and fruit, flowers. With Goodwill's deployment, MSC is currently on standby with 3 trucks to respond to Hurricane Milton. There'd be 3 trucks, and Scott Bloomquist would be going with them. So we'll know in the next few days if they're going on yet. And speaking of MSC, Commissioners and myself received phone calls and emails today about a letter that some people received in the mail regarding additional deposits on their account. There were 224 residential accounts that were assessed additional deposits. And during COVID, there were many customers who had their deposit applied to their account in order to assist them through that time. And however, letters were sent to those customers informing them that MSC would eventually rebuild the deposit. Know that only residential customers who have had a relatively poor payment history were the ones who were assessed the additional deposit. Any accounts in good standing and those that routinely pay their bills on time were not requested to pay an additional deposit. Once 24 consecutive months are made of on-time payments, a deposit will be refunded to them. If anyone has any questions about a letter they may have received, they should really be in touch with MSC for clarification. There's something that needs to be clarified. Thank you.
Thank you. And comments from Goodwill, speaking of Goodwill.
If I may introduce things, are there any questions, comments, or reference to September fire? So October came up quick again on us, fire prevention month for us. So we'll be having fire prevention, in schools and in the community. Remind everybody to check their smoke detectors, check the batteries, make sure they're operational. For whatever reason they are not, stop at the firehouse, give us a call, if you need smoke detector, let us know. The batteries, we do have some batteries at the station, and if you need us to come out and help install it, put it up, swap battery detector, let us know. We'll be happy to do that. As well, being in open with October open house, it's October 26th. It's the last Saturday in October. It goes from 11 to 3. So come on out. There'll be a lot of activities for everybody of all ages. And I hope it'll be a nice day. We do have a live demo. I won't give away what the demo is, but I will say it will be an interesting demo. And lastly, given what's has happened in North Carolina, Council President Souter had reported that 3 of our members went down to North Carolina with the task force. This is something new, not only for Goodwill, but it's also new for the state of Delaware. So the first deployment, they were active for 5 days down there. They went to Avery County. They were stationed out of the power company down there, and given the devastation that they had gone through and what they were dealing with not only their own community, but as well as their own lives, their households. They opened up their arms and the basement and welcomed us strong. And we took care of the 14 members there. So out of the 14 members, 3 were from Goodwill, Chief Majewski, Captain Schaffer, Senior Firefighter Chris Rael. From Captain Schaffer and Chief Majewski shared the role as a team leader. Chris Rael did a lot of logistics stuff. They did have a drone with them. We had a drone pilot, so that assisted a lot. The main goal there was search and rescue. So they worked out for 5 days before being demobilized on October 3rd. So we are glad to have them back, but they also serve the state well, they serve well, and they also serve the city of New Hampshire well. So, that is,
Okay, thank you, sir.
Council President, I just have one comment. Thank you for your presentation, Captain Moore. City Administrator Tintello, can we please, add, a comment about the smoke detectors on the city website in terms of people being able to get those free? Maybe on our social media, and then also a blurb in the crier.
Sure, I'll look at you.
Thank
Okay, public comments. The usual rules, please state your name and sign in on the sheet that should be on the lectern, and each person has 3 minutes. Yeah, you're going to sign this. Yes, okay.
My name is Linda Bridge, ROCHE. I'm a resident of historic Newcastle. I live in 1122 condos, which is on West 11th Street, not far from here. I'm running into a bit of a situation where I kind of need some help figuring out the top two regarding getting maintenance for our buildings. They were built in the 70s, and because it's condos and not apartments, there's no one like in charge of helping with maintaining the building. So we're having some troubles with that, with like the roof, the siding, things kind of falling apart in common areas, and people who live in the buildings not following the rules and expectations and not maintaining their part of the property, which causes property damage to me and causes damage to other people who live on the property.
Do you have a condo association?
We do, and we haven't had much success with that. And we have a property management who says he only handles stuff outside of the building.
Without knowing all the details of your condo, it's really hard to answer your question.
Okay. I've been getting the runaround with who do we talk to and what do we do, so.
I can, give you my card and.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Josie Lloyd, and if you can recall, a month or so ago, I was here and I was asked about the tree being trimmed at Mount Salem, in United Methodist Church on East 4th Street. And I couldn't get back to the meeting that you had before, but I wanted to come back and thank, I don't know who it was or who did it, but I want to come back and tell you, thank you so much for whoever went down there and cut the limbs on that tree that was hanging over a historical marker at the church. I was very grateful. I got a call from one of the gentlemen, I think that's on your council, and told me that they had been down also and looked at the church. So I'm just very grateful. Thank you for doing what you did. I just couldn't believe that you did it that quick, that you did it. And I'm also thinking maybe because of Mount Salem being, having a lot of history here in, over Newcastle, maybe Juneteenth or Celebration Day, I was thinking about maybe, having flyers or people would like to come by out front of the church and learn of the history of the church. So I will be contacting, someone during that time about that. So again, thank you so much for what you did, and I know to come back again if those names get along again, to come back again. Thank you again so much.
Thank you for coming back. Good evening. I'm Carol Buklage. I live at 33 The Strand with my husband Ron. Recently, we learned that the house behind us in Packet Alley is going to be turned into an Airbnb. We sent a letter to council detailing our concerns about this arrangement and asked for a revision in ordinance section 230-19. There also seems to be some confusion in that section, in that number 3 says something about you can have transient homes with 5 rooms and people able to rent those rooms. But then section 7 says something about you can only have 1 room and less transient kind of people, I think. So at any rate, we sent you a letter and we hope that you will reinvestigate, change, don't grandfather anybody in, because we're very concerned. We've had a talk with neighbors, so we're not the only people who are concerned about this potential arrangement. And it's not just for our part of the historic residence district. You know, it's just not us. There are other people on other streets who have now become very concerned about the possibility of having Airbnbs within the historic residence area within our city. It seems really inappropriate to have commercial businesses operating within historic residence districts. So I ask that you read our letter. I believe you also have another letter that came in from neighbor. And several folks have stopped by to say, please speak also for us. So I think you will be hearing from additional folks. We ask for you to reconsider that section and make revisions to it. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vinnie Beal. I live 26th Bend, and I'd like to echo Luca Rich's comments regarding the first home contemplated effective November 1 on Packet Alley. Neighbors, and there are several neighbors, you'll hear from all of them, of course, are concerned about it because it breaks up the traditional historic neighborhood. This will be an Airbnb, and Airbnbs appear to have a reputation as being, quote, party houses. And I went to college a number of years ago, was a member of a fraternity, and I don't want to live next to Animal House. I think that the access to this particular property is particularly troublesome. Packet Alley is a one-way alley. It's very short, it's very difficult to drive in and out of. It's almost impossible to turn around in. And so I think if we have some younger folks that have come in the middle of the night and want to park their Ford 150s in Packet Alley, there are going to be problems. They're not going to be able to turn around. They're going to be able to back out and probably graze the 2 buildings on either side, and then back into the street and probably back right into my car. So I have a concern for the neighbors, neighborhood, for people's cars, for our privacy. And I would like you all to consider a revision to ordinance 2030-19. Thank you.
Thank you.
I normally call balls and strikes when somebody does something good, like tell them, Councilperson Sauter,
I may just interrupt you.
Michael Black.
Most people know who you are, but just in case.
No, but, I'd like to thank you for your help there last month. Hopefully we, get to the end. Like I said, when we started, I don't think I was treated very fairly. Emails from Mr. Bergstrom, just, less than flattering, let's put it that way, for a city official. For him to misrepresent truth in meetings was wrong, but like I said, I want to thank you. And the other thing I have a concern about right now, talking to other residents, is why all of a sudden are we negotiating a union contract midway through it, 6 months into a new budget? Why wasn't this discussed at the budget meetings? The whole purpose of contracts are so you can control your budget, control labor costs, and as far as that goes now, like I said, last time I checked at 5 o'clock, it wasn't up on the website, so I'm not really sure what's gonna happen, memorandum of understanding, but like I said, and the other thing is, even with the firemen, they're volunteers. Tax cuts aren't for volunteers. Where does this money come from? Who's paying for it? Is what I wanna know. So I have, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President, once again, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And we'll be talking about that,
Okay.
resolution when we get to it. Okay, anyone else have any comments tonight?
Ron Miller, East Third Street. I just wanted to, I check the website all the time, but you had an ordinance that you were gonna talk about tonight. I think Councilor Mataway added a moratorium on what the unit,
That's not on tonight, but it will be in a future month.
okay, all right, in that case, I'll hold my comments to that, so you owe me 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Mr. Miller, I would encourage you to go to planning commission, check their agenda, because this now moved to their authority first before they send the final recommendation to the council. So that would just be something I would mention.
Their meeting is next Monday after.
Yeah, that's the next step. The planning commission has to review it, and then it comes back to us. Any other comments from the public? Okay, then the next item is the resolution regarding the grant request for outdoor recreation parks and trails, resolution 2024-39. I'll read the resolution. I have the final version. Okay. A resolution to authorize outdoor recreation parks and trails, known as ORPT, 2024 playground grant application. Whereas in 2022, the city of Newcastle worked with the playground subcommittee, the Old Newcastle Outdoor Recreation Coalition, or Encore Coalition, to update the aging and inaccessible playground facilities in the Battery Park Playground by completing phase 1 of playground upgrades. And whereas phase 1 of the Battery Park Playground upgrades were completed with funding of various grant sources, such as Outdoor Recreation Parks and Trails, DENREC grant. And whereas the city of Newcastle has worked with the Playground Subcommittee, the Old Newcastle Outdoor Recreation Coalition, to continue to work towards completing phase 2 of the update and improvements of the playground facilities in Battery Park, and continue to pursue grant funding to complete the project. And whereas the city has been invited to apply for the 2024 Outdoor Recreation Parks and Trails after completing the pre-application in the spring of 2024, and has applied for a grant in the amount of $125,000 in September 2024 to partially fund playground improvements, which will continue to improve access to the playground for all children, including disabled children. These updates include additional background equipment with accessible ramps, bridges and slides on an accessible surface along with benches and a shaded landscaping system. And whereas the city administrator will serve as the project manager of the project. And whereas the city has secured approved funding in the amount of $375,000 from the fiscal 25 state bond bill to finance playground equipment for the project and accessible playground surfacing. And Encore Coalition is continuing to pursue numerous grant activities to fund the completion of the project. And whereas the trustees of the Newcastle Common, who control the operation of Battery Park, have consented to the project and have provided a letter of support to the grant, to support the grant application. And whereas the city of Newcastle has allocated funds and the city of Newcastle and Encore are pursuing additional funding measures from various sources to contribute to the Battery Park Phase 2 playground. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of Newcastle hereby resolves as follows. 1, the City Council hereby approves the application for the ORPT grant as described above and authorizes the city administrator the authority to complete the application process. The city administrator will serve as the project manager for the purposes of the ORPT grant and application. The city has secured approval of funding in the amount of $375,000 from the fiscal year 25 state bond bill to finance the project. 4, the Old Newcastle Outdoor Recreation Coalition will continue to pursue additional grant funds to complete the entire project. Is there discussion on this resolution?
Just wanted to make 2 comments about, I would add in first and third paragraph, right after the comma after it says playground subcommittee, I would just add and the Encore. As I read it right now, one is the same, like it says work with a playground subcommittee, comma the old Encore.
Oh.
Just and, because 2 different bodies. Yeah, but
So the first,
first and third, it's at the same spot, and kind of right after that.
okay. So I'll take that as a motion. Is there a second to make that correction to the resolution?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the amendment? Aye. Okay, so now we get on to the resolution as a whole. Are there any other comments about it?
I just have a comment that I wanted to thank Judy Goodman for initially reaching out to Denver for this grant years ago at this point and successfully, helping obtain this grant. And when we were having opening for the phase 1 last year, Denver personnel came over and they were so excited to see, the funding at work and right there in person encouraged Judy and the team to continue, pursuing funding from DENREC. So I just wanted to thank
Okay, Judy.
with the plan.
Oh, okay.
And DENREC for encouraging to go further with this grant. And thank you, Antonina, for helping Encore in doing that. That's all I have.
Okay, any other comments from anyone else? Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's approved. Or the resolution is. And the next item of new business is what Mr. Platt mentioned, the resolution concerning the memorandum of agreement between the city of Newcastle and local union of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. First of all, this is not a reopening of the entire contract. So I'll explain a little more about it. As for those who attended the budget meetings, we discussed in the budget meetings the health insurance costs increased by 27% this year. The city budgeted for our employer part of the premiums for our employees, but it was a big hit to the take-home pay of the many of the ASME employees, which ASME represents all of our non-police staff. So that's public works and the people who work in the office, not the department heads, but the other folks. So in early July, the union requested bargaining on the benefits portion only. So we're not reopening the entire contract. We're not discussing salaries. That wasn't on the table. And so they were asking for a revision to the city's contribution to the, healthcare premiums. They've made this, and that would go through the remainder of this contract, which expires on June 30th of 2026. The city agreed to bargain, because we felt that to adjust these benefits now would be more equitable. It would help with attraction and retention of employees. So that was our reason for entering into it. It was a limited bargaining, and that's where it is. So I'm going to read the resolution. Resolution 2024-40, a resolution related to collective bargaining, approving a memorandum of agreement between the City of Newcastle, Delaware, and Local Union 3515 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 81, AFL-CIO, which is acronym AFSCME. So for the period November 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. Whereas AFSCME Union, Local Union 3515 represents certain employees of the City of Newcastle, the city, for purposes of collective bargaining in the city. And whereas the city and AFSCME Local Union 3515 are parties to a collective bargaining agreement that expires on June 30th, 2026. And whereas the city and AFSCME Local Union 3515 agreed to negotiate for the possible amendment of certain provisions in the collective bargaining agreement. And whereas the city and AFSCME Local Union 3515 engaged in negotiations, reached agreement on certain terms for the amendment of specified provisions in the collective bargaining agreement, which terms have an effective date of November 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2026, and have noted their agreement on the amended provisions to a memorandum of agreement, which has been fully executed by representatives of the city and AFSCME Local Union 3515. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Newcastle hereby approves the memorandum of agreement between the city and AFSCME Local Union 3515, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect November 1st, 2024. Is there any discussion from council on this resolution? Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion or the resolution is approved. Next item is a council discussion, motion, and possible vote on the revised filming permit. As you may know, Newcastle from time to time is approached by various film production companies asking to film here. And the last agreement we had, I think, was prepared in, I think it was dated September of '97. So things have changed a bit, prices have gone up. So it was felt we needed to rework this. The council's been provided with a copy of the revised, what's known as the location agreement, which specifies the responsibilities of filming companies. That they're required to have insurance, of course, and that they have to clean up after themselves, and they can't block traffic, and all kinds of practical things that you would think of, that they have to pay for any police overtime that's required, any public works overtime that's required, and anything that costs the city money, basically, they have to pay for, plus an administrative fee. Ms. Tantillo, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you for summarizing everything. This has been a long time coming. This needed revisions sooner rather than later, since other communities Mr. Albany team in revising the language in this contract and then updating these, we work with our public works and police departments to include their rates in here and their agreement with the other rates or other numbers for buildings.
Okay, does anyone from council have any questions or comments about this revised agreement?
I just do, and I already asked them, but I'll ask them because of the public. For parking matters,
has the chief and the team been really involved in drafting the language regarding blocking the streets and stuff, can you tell us what is that, entail? Because, I think everybody would be concerned if there's one way in and one way out from the street, that you can't leave. There's no recording, so.
So Chief, we get killed for the direct, I think, but, there would be, you have to work together. When you have events, all events, we work as a team and work on these plans for how things are going to set up, things are going to be executed. We certainly work with the police department, and the applicant to make a plan of action for filming and accessibility. And if they are using assistance of our police department, which they would be required to, then those officers on duty would monitor who can go in and out. And if there were residents living there, they would assist with them.
And the agreement also provides that they will submit a specific traffic and parking plan. So it depends on which parts of the city they're going to be in. And it provides that they have to basically come in, unload and get, they can't just leave the truck sit around all day and block the streets. And if they have, trailers and things for their crew, they can't block anything. And they have to be away from home so they don't disturb people and, all those things were taken into consideration.
Yeah, I guess if I can I ask the chief directly, would it be approved, would the project be approved if it was blocking a one-way street, which is a lot of streets in, Newcastle, without any exit out of that street, or would there be allowed use to go the opposite way, traffic and people have to leave the street? Just curious, like logistic wise, how would that, I know that there would be a plan in place, but then it would be considered, or would you just, just worried about, like not being able to go to the hospital?
Right. Well, we go through this with say, the 5K run sometimes where we close streets for temporary amount of time. So this is a collaborative decision. We work with Public Works, the fire department, city administrator, and the event planner as well. So, we don't have a ton of history with long-term closures for projects like this. Most of them are short-term, and we provide alternate routes, a lot of outreach, a lot of stuff like that. But so I mean, we have some experience with that part of it. I haven't seen any requests for long-term closures other than maintenance and stuff like that. So I've got some history there.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. My other thing was, so since this hasn't been changed since whatever the year is, has this been enforced? Has this been okay, so where is this
Yes.
projected revenue? I guess that's kind of my question. And where is this in the past? Didn't show this.
So I guess it's from an as we did, so it wasn't a common thing that would happen every year per se. But it was just kind of as version.
If I may, so it came up because we had an inquiry even before I got here, when Mr. Griffiths, well, Justice Griffiths was here. And we looked at it and we were like, well, we have to go with what we got, but we need to update this because it doesn't make any sense. So I don't know if that thing 2.5 years ago went forward or it didn't, but that was the impetus of it. We had folks who had inquiry.
This is the same inquiry, isn't it?
Likely, yeah.
I think the person who asked about it a couple of years ago didn't go forward with the project at that point, and now it's the same person coming back. At least that's my understanding, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, so we have an inquiry, in the coming months, for to simple in the city. So, and there, that's just one of a few. So this is even a more prevalent item that needs to be.
But it's been a while since we've had any filming here, so.
That's not all, it's just where it would show up.
Right, right.
I'm understanding. For all my questions.
Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Cantillo or the chief or Mr. Walton?
Council President. Thank you for bringing this forward and, wow, 1997. Forgive me, I have some questions in regards to item 17 and then on page 4 and page 3. I am sensitive to this because of the history of this town and fires and my personal history. Grew up in West Philadelphia, my whole block, Osage Avenue was destroyed by fire. So I don't know what A and B explosive permit is or C explosive permit, and then transport A and B explosives permit. Imagine that speaks to, some category of those items. But looking at number 17, again, I know, this is obviously something of the past in terms of people filming, and we want people to film here, but we also want everybody and everything to be safe. So again, I recognize the need for legalese and sometimes not clarity, but a plan for fire safety and security must be developed by the film personnel and approved by city building official. Have we or can we give some thought to requiring someone from the Go-Go Fire Company potentially being around or on staff? Just a thought.
Sure, and I would just like to know our building official is also a part.
Okay.
Right, so he has training and
Okay.
expertise in this area.
Maybe we should add that, building official /
Right, just in case that position was ever split, future, we want this carrying forward.
But yes, we'll certainly put them in the conversation.
I'll make a motion for that change in the language about fire marshal that President Suzanne mentioned and Councilperson Mataway introduced.
Yeah, I don't know, do we need a formal motion? Since this isn't a resolution.
It's just an agreement.
Just an
We'll make the change as long as you guys approve it in concept, then we'll make the
Okay.
change.
So the change is to add fire marshal to the, where it says building official, and we're making it / fire marshal. So that if, at some point in the future, that's a different person, that they'll both be involved.
Can we explicitly then say instead of / by the city building official and fire marshal, in case it is two people, because / might just be one or the other, that's how.
I don't know, whatever the legal,
Yeah,
to make it so that it's clear that if it's one person, okay, if it's two people, we want both of them.
exactly.
Any other comments or questions?
I would be curious to learn more about Mr. Mataway's question about A, B, and C explosive permits.
So you're gonna come to me and I'm not gonna be able to answer. All I know is that you have to get those for any kind of fireworks, like you do for Separation Day or whatever. The levels of them, I don't know. I will freely admit that we took this from the prior version and just said, please update these.
If I could, so every year Separation Day, I get forwarded a explosive permit, which is prepared by fireworks vendor in conjunction with Jeff Bergstrom. And they have to outline, their safety zone, how they're transporting materials in and out, and safety features, or safety processes they have in place during that day. And then we usually review it and sign off on it. It's pretty straightforward, but that's all that is. Any type of explosives, it covers handling from the time it hits the city line until the time that they're out.
So you said, if I understood you correctly, you normally work with Mr. Bergstrom, our building official / fire marshal, with this now, and you would expect that that would be the case in a filming situation?
Yes, ma'am. And just to go back on, I'll say recent history, probably within the last 10 years, there was some type of documentary that was filmed on the green that included a scene with fire and things like that. We had a pumper on standby and a crew up there for that. It was quite some time ago, I'm gonna say at least 10 years ago, but that does come to mind. So we have interacted with these things before. It's not a big deal for us to get involved.
And sorry, while we have you, do you know what A, B, and C categories are for explosives? Because there's a separate fireworks permit and then A, B, and C permits for explosives.
I do not. If I did say anything, I would be speculating, and I don't want to speculate incorrectly, so I'd rather.
Appreciate it.
We can look it up and we can go from there.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
appreciate your expertise. Any other comments and questions? So do we, Mr. Wall, do we need a formal vote on this or just a consensus?
I would just have a motion to consent to the form of the contract.
Does anyone make a motion to consent to the form of the contract as with the changes we've made? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The agreement is approved. Okay, and finally, this is. We have ordinance 2024-551, which I will read, and this being the first reading, there will be no discussion or anything tonight. We'll have a public hearing and second reading with discussion at a future meeting. Ordinance 2024-551, an ordinance to amend the City of Newcastle Municipal Code, Chapter 221, taxation, to add a tax incentive for resident firefighters. Whereas the Council of the City of Newcastle, City Council, possesses the authority to adopt, amend, modify, or repeal the City of Newcastle Municipal Code, City Code. And whereas the City Council believes the Goodwill Fire Company, including its Ladies Auxiliary, is a vital part of the City of Newcastle, serving and protecting the community. And whereas the Goodwill Fire Company and its Ladies Auxiliary includes and depends upon career and volunteer members to provide its services. And whereas the City Council believes that acknowledging and incentivizing city residents to serve as active members of Goodwill Fire Company or its Ladies Auxiliary would benefit all citizens and businesses in the city. And whereas the City Council finds that adopting a tax incentive waiving all or a portion of the city property taxes will encourage city residents to serve as active members of the Goodwill Fire Company or its Ladies Auxiliary. And whereas the City Council has determined that it is in the best interest of the city and its residents to amend the City of Newcastle Municipal Code to add such tax incentive for qualified resident firefighters. Now therefore, making the express finding that the provisions of this ordinance enhance and promote the health, safety, and welfare of the City of Newcastle, be it ordained by the Council of the City of Newcastle as follows. Section 1, City Code Chapter 221, taxation is hereby amended by adding a new Article 7 titled Goodwill Firefighters and Ladies Auxiliary Exemption as follows. Article 7, Goodwill Firefighter and Ladies Auxiliary Exemption, 221-27. Qualifications and amount of exemption. Upon receipt of an appropriate application for the exemption, the city will provide resident firefighters a city property tax refund of up to $500 per person or up to $900 per household with 2 or more resident firefighters as defined in Section 221-27B. Refunds are further limited by the amount of city taxes paid, as the city will not issue refunds in excess of the amount of city taxes paid in the application year, nor will any unused portion of the maximum refund amount be carried forward to subsequent fiscal years. Section B, a resident firefighter is defined as an active member, career, or volunteer of the Goodwill Fire Company or Goodwill Ladies Auxiliary who is legally domiciled within the City of Newcastle as of July 1st of the fiscal year for which the exemption is sought. Mere seasonal or temporary residents within the City of Newcastle of whatever duration shall not constitute domicile within the City of Newcastle. Absence from the City of Newcastle for a period of 12 months shall be prima facie evidence of abandonment of domicile in the City of Newcastle. The burden of establishing domicile shall be upon the claimant. C, it shall be the resident firefighter's responsibility to initiate an application for the exemption. The city will not proactively seek applications from resident firefighters or independently monitor their status or availability. Section C, applications for the exemption must be received no later than December 1st for taxes paid in the prior fiscal year, which were due on September 30th. Resident firefighters that do not apply on or before December 1st will forfeit their rebate for that tax year. The city will not retroactively award rebates, and all late submitted applications will be denied. Section 221-28, applications for exemption. To receive the exemption, the resident firefighter must submit an appropriate application form and provide A, certification from the fire chief that the resident firefighter is or was active pursuant to the applicable bylaws of the Goodwill Fire Company and or Goodwill Ladies Auxiliary for the 12-month period for which the exemption is sought. B, proof of ownership and residence. And C, a receipt showing payment of the paid City of Newcastle property tax bill on or before September 30th. The city retains the right to determine final eligibility for the exemption and may refuse the exemption to applicants unable to provide the foregoing documentation. Section 2, if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 3, in the event any existing ordinances or parts of ordinances are in conflict herewith, the provisions of this ordinance shall control. Section 4, the ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption by the City Council. The exemption shall be available to qualifying resident firefighters in fiscal year 2025, that is July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. That's the first reading, so. And I think we're finished. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.